Tighten your grip on the steering wheel, check your seatbelt, and face the curve right in front of you. What you're about to see isn't for the faint of heart. Some roads weren't born to connect, but to put your courage to a life or death test. This isn't smooth asphalt. It's the thin line between life and death. Are you confident in your driving skills, or do you have nerves of steel? Hold your breath, because we're about to face the 25 most brutal and deadly roads on the planet, where a single blink is enough to cost you your life. Are you ready to gamble with death? Let's start now. Karakoram Highway, Pakistan/China. The eighth wonder of the world, Karakoram, is a blood-soaked friendship highway connecting Pakistan and China. Construction began in 1959, and this ribbon of asphalt stretches to an unbelievable altitude of 4,693 meters at Kunjarab Pass. But don't let the majestic beauty fool you, because you're driving on the massive grave of over 1,000 workers who died carving through the mountains, creating a chilling curse. One life for every kilometer of road. The sheer cliffs constantly vomit rocks and landslides without warning, ready to crush convoys at their base. The most haunting things are the cold cemeteries along the road, where incense is burned for the unlucky workers permanently buried in the road's concrete foundation. Here, brutal nature never sleeps, and landslides are a death sentence hanging over your head every second. Guoliang Tunnel Road, China. This blood-soaked road was chiseled through the Taihang Mountains by 13 desperate villagers starting in 1972 to escape their permanent isolation from the world. Just 4 meters wide and 5 meters high, the tunnel squeezes you with a suffocating feeling. Terror lurks on the dark, slippery stone surface, and winding blind spots that completely take away your vision. Hugging the sharp cliff wall to avoid oncoming traffic here is a real gamble with your life. The most chilling thing that hits you right in the face is the 30 gaping windows right at the cliff's edge, with no guardrails at all. Passers-by often sneak a coin toss into the void to commemorate the workers who were blown to pieces during the blasting, and the unlucky cars that lost their grip and flew straight through the opening, shattering at the bottom. Hold on to that steering wheel, because the 120-meter drop below has never stopped craving the faint of heart. The Wave, Arizona, Utah, USA. This isn't a man-made road, but a 190-million-year-old sandstone masterpiece. To protect its fragile structure, the government only allows a very few lucky people to set foot here each day after a tough lottery process. The deadly trap here is the silence. On the 10-kilometer hike through the unmarked desert, temperatures often soar above 40 degrees Celsius. The constantly swirling rock patterns can also hypnotize your vision, easily causing you to lose your way and become exhausted. Since 2013, there have been several recorded deaths from heat stroke and heart failure. The disappearing footprints on the hot sand are a warning. This magnificent beauty is just a mask for a death machine. Don't be mesmerized, because once you're lost among the waves of rock, the thin air and the heat will swallow you into the heart of the desert forever. Los Caracoles Pass, Chile/Argentina. This is the border route connecting Chile and Argentina, completed in 1980 to transport goods across the Andes. At an altitude of about 3,200 meters, the road will test your nerves with 29 steep U-shaped turns stacked like a snail's shell, with absolutely no guardrails to protect the cliff's edge. The danger comes not only from the steepness, but also from the moments your vehicle has to hug the edge of the cliff to avoid heavy trucks sliding on slippery black ice. When your tires lose traction, blizzards and rockfalls can strike at any moment and swallow you whole. Just one slip on a patch of ice or an oncoming vehicle with failed brakes and you'll be swept away, tumbling down into the Andes Valley forever. Despite being rated as one of the most dangerous roads, Los Caracoles is still a tourist attraction thanks to its majestic mountain scenery. Mono Lake Tufa Towers, California, USA. Imagine you're lost among the stone bones of Mono Lake in California. These bizarre tufa towers were hidden underwater for centuries, only revealed in 1941 when water was diverted to Los Angeles, turning this place into an exposed wasteland. From a distance, the lake's surface is as still as a mirror, but reeks of sulfur, with an alkaline level 2.5 times that of the ocean. Sharp limestone towers jut out, ready to tear anything that touches them. The space is almost completely silent, except for the billions of black flies swarming the water's edge. The most dangerous part is the alkaline mud on the shore, which has caused fatal entrapments. When the lakebed dries up, arsenic dust can swirl into white columns, choking your lungs. Here, nature doesn't welcome you. It reveals a cold, apocalyptic scene. Trollstigen, Norway. The Troll's Ladder, Trollstigen, is a road carved through a cliff face in 1936 to break the isolation of the Valdal Valley. At an altitude of about 850 meters, the narrow road tests your nerves with 11 hairpin turns at a 9% grade. Danger comes not only from the drop below, but also from above. Cold water from the Stigfossen waterfall makes the road slippery, while the sheer cliff face is always ready to spit out giant hailstones aimed right at the roof of your car. The threat is so serious that in 2024, the route was closed because a large falling rock even smashed a tour bus. With just one small crack, tons of cold rock could come crashing down, crushing your body if you're not careful. North Yungas Road, Bolivia. You're teetering on Death Road, North Yungas, Bolivia, the road carved into the cliffside by Paraguayan prisoners of war in 1930 to connect the capital, La Paz, with the Amazon rainforest. At an altitude of 4,650 meters, you'll have to squeeze through a mere 3-meter-wide clay road with no guardrails. Right at the edge of your tires is a 600-meter drop. The real horror comes from the fog and the constant jungle rains that turn the steep surface into a muddy slide. Hitting the brakes here is sometimes the same as suicide. The most chilling thing is the rusty crosses stuck all along the cliff's edge. They mark the spot for the more than 300 people who die here every year. A grim reminder of the 1983 tragedy when a bus with 100 passengers slid straight to the bottom of the valley. If you're off by just 1 millimeter, the abyss below will open up and swallow you whole. Rohtang Pass, India. You're entering Rohtang Pass, India, where its local name literally translates to pile of corpses. Opened by the military through the Himalayas at an altitude of 3,978 meters to supply the border region, this is, in fact, a grave that has buried thousands of travelers over the centuries. The ultimate horror isn't just the bottomless drop with no guardrails, but the greasy, slippery sludge called Rani Nala. Your wheels will spin helplessly, sliding sideways toward the cliff's edge, while traffic is jammed to a standstill. The most haunting sight is the crushed truck carcasses scattered at the bottom of the valley, never to be recovered. The weather here is so brutal that fog and blizzards can descend in an instant. Just one wrong press of the gas pedal, and you'll immediately join the cold, eternal pile of corpses down below. Hand of the desert, Chile. In the middle of the Atacama Desert, known as the driest place on Earth, a giant 11-meter-tall hand made of reinforced concrete rises from the dust. Erected in 1992 on the side of the Pan American Highway, it's a symbol of human smallness and helplessness. The scariness here doesn't come from curves, but from the solitude. This endlessly straight road quietly lulls the brain to sleep, leading to horrific rollovers when drivers lose consciousness for a split second. Around the hand, small scattered shrines are proof of the souls who have fallen asleep at the wheel forever. When night falls, the hand's long shadow stretches across the sand as if trying to grab your lonely car. Don't stop for too long, because the absolute silence here will start whispering things into your ear that you shouldn't hear. Kolyma Highway, India. Carved through the mountains by the army since 1964 to secure the border, this strip of land crosses passes as high as 5,328 meters. Death lurks in the rushing streams of melting ice that cut across the narrow road, ready to sweep your vehicle down into a bottomless, 1,000-meter deep chasm. But what will send a shiver down your spine is the legend of the Ghost of Garter Loops. At these 21 deadly hairpin turns, every driver who passes must throw down a bottle of water as an offering to the soul of a truck driver who died of thirst in isolation years ago. Looking down into the abyss, the crushed truck wrecks scattered like broken toys are the most brutal evidence. Just a slight dizzy spell from the altitude, and you'll be permanently laid to rest with those rusty iron skeletons in the void. Fairy Meadows Road, Pakistan. Crudely carved into the cliffside by locals hundreds of years ago, this one-lane road is the gateway to Nanga Parbat, nicknamed the Killer Mountain. At an altitude of 3,300 meters, this 16-kilometer route will drain your courage because it's only as wide as a single vehicle. Right next to you is a 1,000-meter drop, ready to bury any hope of survival if you happen to slip a wheel. The most haunting part is the terrifying narrowness that chokes the road near the end, forcing you to get out and walk along the cliff's edge to get through. It's so scary that the government forbids tourists from driving themselves, and you're forced to entrust your life to local drivers. In 2013, it was ranked the second deadliest road in the world. Here, just one jerky tap of the brakes or a misplaced rolling stone is enough to take your life in a flash. Kolyma Highway, Hawaii. You're betting your life on a scenic coastal road nicknamed Death Highway 340. Originally an ancient trail for Maui warriors, it's poorly paved, twisting like a venomous snake along the sheer rock cliffs of the island's west side. This road is so narrow, it's suffocating, just wide enough for one car, forcing you to press up against the jagged, crumbling cliff face while your other wheels are on the edge of a 60-meter drop straight down to the roaring ocean. What will send a chill down your spine is the clause in the rental car agreement. If you drive here, your insurance is void. It's a statement that you are venturing into the jaws of death all alone. On Kahekili, both the falling rocks from above and the deep chasm below are hungry for your life. Abano Pass, Georgia. This route crossing the Caucasus Mountains was opened as a makeshift road in 1979 to connect the remote Tusheti mountain region with the outside world. At an altitude of 2,926 meters, the winding red dirt strip with no guardrails will force you to navigate the edge of a cliff. The ultimate terror comes from the slate rock bed, which has been shredded by waterfalls that flow across the road. Your tires are forced to cling to a mushy sludge that's always on the verge of collapsing under its own weight. The most chilling things are the memorial plaques with faces of the dead hammered into the roadside. Any local driver passing by will stop and pour chacha liquor onto the ground to appease the souls from the 2019 tragedy when a truck overturned into the valley, claiming 7 lives. In this place, with just one unstable, crumbling edge of dirt, the deep grave below will bury your body forever. Skipper's Canyon Road, New Zealand. Skipper's Canyon is a death road blasted out by gold miners with dynamite starting in 1883 to get into the valley. Hanging on a cliff face, this narrow strip of dirt is just wide enough for one vehicle and has absolutely no guardrails. On one side is a drop of hundreds of meters down to the Shot-Over River. On the other is a jagged slate cliff. The road surface is so loose that the edge can crumble and give way right under your wheels. What sends a chill down many drivers' spines is that all insurance companies refuse to cover you if you drive here. The bottom of the valley is still littered with countless wrecked cars, reminders of horrific accidents when vehicles slid in the mud near the cliff's edge. In the narrow sections where you have to reverse to let others pass, just one shaky press of the brake can send you plunging onto the jagged rocks at the bottom of the river. Tianmen Mountain Road, China. This 11-kilometer road was carved into a cliff in 1998 to lead to the Heaven's Gate, climbing from an altitude of 200 meters to 1,300 meters. The most dangerous part is the series of 99 hairpin turns so sharp they can easily cause dizziness and disorientation. Thick fog often rolls in, obscuring your vision and turning the edge of the 1,000-meter-deep, unguarded cliff into an invisible trap. You'll face the risk of brake failure from having to constantly slow down on the descent. The danger level is so high that tourists are forbidden from driving themselves and can only take a special shuttle bus. At the bottom of the abyss, there's still debris from accidents, a reminder that just one moment of letting up on the brake and centrifugal force could send your car flying straight into the deep chasm. Taroko Gorge Road, Taiwan. Carved through a marble cliff by veterans with blood and dynamite starting in 1956, this cross-island route is essentially an open-air cemetery. The chilling feeling comes not just from the narrow road, squeezed between a sheer cliff and the Liwu River abyss, but from the rock ceiling right above you. Sudden rockfalls and landslides from earthquake aftershocks can crush your car into smithereens at any moment. The most haunting thing that hits you is the bright red eternal spring shrine, where incense never stops burning, to appease the souls of the 225 workers who died building the road. Here, the mountain feels like a living, ferocious creature, always waiting to devour those who dare to trespass. Sani Pass, South Africa/Lesotho. You're trembling as you grip the steering wheel on Sani Pass, the treacherous route connecting South Africa to the Kingdom of Lesotho. Widened from a packhorse trail in 1950 for trade, this gravel road climbs to an altitude of 2,876 meters with a brutal gradient, at times as steep as 1 to 3. The chill running down your spine right now comes not just from the high-altitude climate, but also from the crushed car wrecks lying in the deep ravine, many of which are never recovered. They rust and twist like silent warnings. In winter, water from the cliffs freezes, making the road surface as slick as glass, causing your tires to easily lose grip and slide toward the unguarded edge of the cliff. Just one wrong turn of the wheel, and your car could plunge into the iron graveyard at the bottom of the valley. Stelvio Pass, Italy. Built by the Austrian Empire starting in 1820 at an altitude of 2,757 meters, Stelvio Pass, or the Giant Serpent, in Italy will test your nerves with 48 steep hairpin turns stacked like a staircase. The low, old concrete barriers are almost useless against a car's momentum. When the alpine fog rolls in, your visibility nearly disappears, forcing you to hug the cliff on your left to avoid the deep drop on your right. Along the blind curves are wilted bouquets and memorial photos attached to rock crevices, marking the spots where many motorcyclists have crashed. The pass's spectacular beauty can easily make you complacent, but just one moment of carelessness, and your car could slide off the road and plunge straight into the abyss. Sichuan-Tibet Highway, China. You're gripping the steering wheel on the Sichuan-Tibet Highway, a road opened in 1950 connecting Chengdu to Lhasa. At an altitude of about 4,700 meters, the 1,000-meter deep abysses and icy roads aren't the scariest part. The real danger comes from the thin air, which starves your brain of oxygen. Altitude sickness causes dizziness and hallucinations, making your steering sluggish right when you need to navigate past landslide-prone cliffs. You'll shudder to learn that this road was built with the labor and lives of about 3,000 workers back in the day. Along the cliff edges, prayer flags flutter, a reminder of the notorious accident rate. For every 100,000 drivers who pass through, about 7,500 die. At the bottom of the glaciers, there are still crushed car wrecks that have never been recovered. Just one moment of distraction due to lack of oxygen, and your vehicle could plunge straight into the cold, deep abyss. Tremolo San Gottardo, Switzerland. You're shaking as your wheels roll over the cold granite cobblestones of the Tremolo Pass in Switzerland. This road was built by hand, starting in 1827, to cross the Alps, and is the longest remaining paved road from the horse-drawn carriage era. At an altitude of 2,106 meters, 24 winding hairpin turns, stacked one after another, will greet you. The danger comes not only from the steepness, but also from the ancient, slippery stone surface whenever it rains or the snow melts, causing your tires to easily lose control and slide toward the low, mossy retaining walls. The vibrations traveling from the steering wheel up to your spine will remind you of the clatter of carriages that plunged into the abyss in the last century. Down in the misty chasm, those silent stones have witnessed many travelers who never reached their destination. Kolyma Highway, Russia. Construction began in 1932 by Gulag prisoners under Stalin to serve gold mining operations, and this 2,032-kilometer route is often considered the longest cemetery in the world. The cold, which can drop to minus 70 degrees Celsius in the desolate Far East, isn't the only danger you'll face. It's estimated that hundreds of thousands of prisoners died building the road, and because the permafrost was too hard to dig graves, many bodies were buried right under the roadbed. In the summer, when the ice thaws, human bones sometimes emerge from the mud. In this remote place, if your car breaks down, it's almost a death sentence. In the middle of the desolate taiga forest, the road's tragic past seems to still haunt those who pass through. D915, Bayburt Road, Turkey. You're trembling before the road that Russian soldiers carved by hand into the Soganli mountainside in 1916 as a bloody supply route. At an altitude of 2,330 meters, the pass will drain your nerves with 29 U-shaped turns with no guardrails on a narrow gravel surface, just wide enough for one vehicle. Death doesn't get you with the steepness, but with the crumbly geology. After a rain, the edge of the road will crumble right under the weight of your tires, along with thick fog that can easily trick you into driving straight into the void. The most chilling thing is when you glance down into the abyss. The crushed car wrecks scattered down there are never recovered. There are no death statistics, only long skid marks that serve as the silent last words of the dead, making any driver who passes here clasp their hands and mutter a prayer. Hold your breath and be careful, because the deep abyss is always ready to open its mouth and swallow you. Zojila Pass, India. Opened as a makeshift military road in 1948 to transport tanks across the Himalayas, Zojila Pass is actually a brutal trap. Located at an altitude of 3,528 meters, the narrow, winding dirt and rock road runs along a rugged mountainside and has absolutely no guardrails. Death isn't just hiding at the cliff's edge, it's waiting to take your life with sudden avalanches and violent windstorms. The bone-chilling cold, combined with the thin air, makes your brain sluggish and numb, while your tires constantly fishtail on the steep slope that has turned into slippery, mushy mud. Local drivers have to mumble prayers at hastily built shrines along the pass to beg for their lives before continuing. The dark abyss below has buried countless vehicles under a thick layer of snow, a haunting echo of the horrific 2012 tragedy when 11 tourists were mangled after sliding in the mud and falling into the valley. Just a split-second slip of the hand on the steering wheel, and the snow mass below will become your permanent, frozen coffin. Would you dare to visit this road once in your life? The Gates of Hell, Turkmenistan. This isn't exactly a road, but a journey into the Devil's Throat, created by a Soviet drilling accident in 1971. 70 meters wide and 30 meters deep, this giant crater has been burning with methane gas for over 50 years. When night falls, the fiery glow reflects against the sky like a demonic signal, luring insects and curious tourists to the very edge of the pit. Here, there are no safety barriers. The sandy ground beneath your feet is scorching hot and always on the verge of collapsing, ready to throw you into a 1,000 degrees Celsius sea of fire. Locals often talk about the whistling sound of the wind through the crater's mouth, which sounds like the cries of souls. Just one careless slip, and you'll become eternal fuel for this hell on earth. Kishtwapangi Road, India. Manually carved into the side of the Himalayas in the mid-20th century to connect isolated villages, this dirt road is just wide enough for one vehicle. At an altitude of 2,500 meters, there are no guardrails between you and the 600-meter drop into the Chenab River. Sharp rocks from the cliff face force your steering towards the edge, while the gravel-covered surface makes your tires lose almost all traction, creating a sense of helplessness as gravity constantly tries to pull you into the void. The fear is so great that even GPS recommends turning back, and many drivers have to pray before they start moving. The bottom of this chasm is the grave of many victims, especially after the 2018 tragedy when a passenger bus slid off the road into the river, claiming dozens of lives. Just one small mistake, and your car could become the next pile of scrap metal at the bottom of the cliff. Are you still breathing okay? Just watching through a screen is enough to make your palms sweat, right? Of the 25 roads that taunt death we just saw, which name haunts you the most? If someone put $1 million on the table and challenged you to drive across one, would you take the offer? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next heart-stopping journeys. See you next time.